Welcome to My Life in Football, Season 2, Episode 2. The time seems to fly by. And, well, we had a living legend in Episode 1, of course, in Ian Allinson. But living legend, this man is just, well, we've just crowned a king. But if he's a king of non-league football, well, this is the man should be putting the crown on. Because, of course, joining me right this very minute in time, he's England C Coach, of course, the legend that is Mr. Mick Payne. And he's a massive pleasure to have you on, sir.
Yeah, great, Dave. As I said, we go back a long, long way. I'm sure our paths have crossed so many times. You know, various games all down the divisions, if you like. So yeah, great to be on, Dave. And as you say, non-league football is, I've got to say, it's in my DNA.
So, we'll go straight into it. How did you actually first get involved in football when you was sort of like a toddler or whatever? What was the first steps into football for Mick?
Well, like all of us, I think, Dave, you know, you get in your school side, and that was always an honour. I mean, I was one of the smallest kids, always a keeper, always a goalkeeper, so that was always interesting. But played up in terms of age groups, and fantastic to do that, and played along, and got the opportunity to play Sundays like a lot of kids did as well. Play for your school, play Sundays. You know, you play all the time. You'd be outside, wouldn't you? You know, playing in the park, playing in the street, playing until it got dark. Your mum kicked you out and then made sure you come in when it was dark. So it was that type of thing. I was saying to someone the other day, though, Dave, you know, when it was like on a Sunday, you'd all go over the park and it'd be all different age groups, you know, kids from about 8, 9. And then you'd have, you know, other guys over there who were 16, 17, 18. And you'd play a game together. And someone like me as a keeper, they used to throw me in, and you had to earn your spurs, for a better word. You know, they'd put you in there with some of the big kids, you know, and you sort of get beat up a bit, and that's how it went. But you know, football in those days, playing in the street, playing in the park, was just brilliant. And they're the things perhaps that give me the foundations to want to push on, Dave.
So I mean, we're playing like for school teams and stuff like that. I mean, what was the first sort of school team or Saturday, Sunday team that you actually played for?
Yeah, well, the school was all going back was Higham Hill School, and I remember playing at the George White ground down at Walthamstow there near the Crooked Billet, and we played what they called the Mackenzie Cup. And again, you look back now and you see school football. I mean, honestly, Dave, I reckon there was at least 500 people watching that game. It was a little junior school game. You know, it was a big deal to play for your school. And then, you know, moved on in terms of school football. Well, I said I played for the district as well, got into, you know, Waltham Forest district and played there, which was, you know, a fantastic sort of a rise. You know, again, I say it very, very surely in terms of what it was. You got picked for your district. It was a massive, massive honour. And that happened. Then, you know, moved on, played Sunday, played for a number of Sunday clubs. First one was, sort of Walthamstow Rangers. Used to play down at St James's Park in Walthamstow, and that was really, really good. Some good players. Then I finished up playing for a young side called Leighton, and it was affiliated to, you know, Leighton FC, and we were very, very successful. Remember playing in a London Cup game final. We played the Semrad, who Semrad were, you know, the Sunday club, Dave, at you know, in East London that all the top players played for. And I remember we played on a real sunny baked ground at the old Hare and Hounds there, and we won 2-0. So I still remember that. Still got all the cuttings. So all those things, Dave, were brilliant. You know, play schoolboy football, play club football, and say play for your district, and then move on from your district, you know, playing for your county, you know. And I finished up playing for Essex at under sort of 16 as well. When I went to Mackenzie School, I tell you, I vied for the position for the goalkeeper there, the Essex, with Mervyn Day, who you know, finished up playing at West Ham. He was the I went to Chelsea. That was the other thing, you know. We'll come on to that, I'm sure. But yeah, so I sort of pushed the position for Mervyn Day, and we sort of always vied to be the number one in Essex.
So was that the professionals wise you went into Chelsea? Was that where we went into?
Yeah, I mean, we went, as I said, again playing Sunday football, which was great. They, you know, at the time they come, and again, you say funny stories, Dave. I mean, when I say funny stories, Chelsea selected me, and I'll tell you now, being a keeper, you know, the scout was there, and we lost 12-0. So I let 12 in. But I've got to say, on that day, I reckon I saved another 30 during that day and had a game of my life, really. And strangely, I was about 14, 13, 14. And strangely enough, we played the same team the following week and only got beat 4-1. And I had an even better game, but as a kid, it was great. And they said, they invited me into Chelsea. And, as I say, a 13, 14-year-old going to Chelsea. I said this to a number of people. Imagine it now. I used to get on the tube from Blackhorse Road on the Victoria line, get off at Finsbury Park, change on the Piccadilly line all the way in, and I'd get all the way to Fulham Broadway. I was 13, 14, Dave, doing that on a Tuesday and Thursday, which was just brilliant, and we did train at Stamford Bridge, which was, we used to train, people might know about Stamford Bridge, used to have this big grass area behind the goals, and that's where we used to train for the keepers. Thick mud, by the way, but it was a great honour to change in the changing room at Stamford Bridge then,
It was always I always remember the old days when you used to have like cars parked behind the back of the goal when you used to sit on Match of the Day and stuff like that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. But Stamford Bridge, if it was really too muddy behind the goals, and say the big floodlights would be on, I'd be dreaming as a kid, like we all do when you're a kid. I'd stand in the shed there when I got there and look over the ground, no one in there. And if it was too muddy, you just said about, we used to train in the car park at the front of the ground. On concrete. It's just quite incredible, really. But moved on, played there, had some good games, got in the sort of youth team, played with like Ray Wilkins, he was in the squad. We had somebody when I played got in the sort of under 18s there. Players that went on in the first team. I thought I might have got a shout. Didn't happen. Gary Stanley played, Ian Britton played, Gary Locke, these all played. As I say, Ray Wilkins, his brother Graham, I was the keeper. But unfortunately, I was 5'10", and Bonetti was 5'10", so I wouldn't say I based my game on him, but I had that sort of, I was a sort of sharp little keeper, and like a lot of us then at the time, just to get the ball on the halfway line from kick out your hands, you felt you got a result because the balls were so heavy, Dave, and the pitches were so heavy. But no, that was always, as I said, I had the honour to play and played against some good players. Played at Stamford Bridge. That was a good one. Played at the Den, the old Den, Mill's old Den. So even as a youth player, that was an experience, to say the least. But no, so that was good. And the unfortunate thing is, you say stories. It's again, imagine this happening now, David. It wouldn't happen now. I was at Chelsea. I left when I was about getting on to 18. They took Steve Sherwood on, who was the other keeper with me. Again, huge individual, 6'4". I was 5'10", and I left and I signed at Colchester. And would you believe, about 3 weeks after I left, Peter Bonetti at Chelsea gets injured, the first team keeper. They had another keeper called John Phillips, who was a Welsh international. The only other goalkeeper I had was Steve Sherwood, and he was trapped up in Yorkshire in the snow, and they couldn't get down. Had no goalkeeper. Now, I left 3 weeks before that. It was true. And honestly, Dave, as I tell you now, who played in goal? David Webb, who was a centre half, and he started the game against Ipswich on Boxing Day, right? The whole game, played the whole game at Stamford Bridge, 50-odd thousand there. Webby was the centre half, played in goal, and Chelsea won 2-0. And if I don't leave 3 weeks before, who knows? Would I have got a game for the first team? But hey ho, that's life, and that's where it takes you on these different journeys and paths. So, but it was a great experience to be, associated with Tottenham.
You didn't actually ask for a loan back for a few days.
No, not in those days, Dave. No, again, I said, no. I went to Colchester. It was good. It was when they had their run. Again, if you get the people that listen to this may know that Colchester had a decent run in the FA Cup. Played Leeds, won 3-2, and the keeper of the guy was a guy called Graham Smith. And I went there, and Roy Massey was the coach, and I know I did well in the trial, but he just said, look, to my dad, he said, look, to be honest, we can't afford a third goalkeeper. We just haven't got the finances. Like a lot of these clubs, even now at the lower level, And you know, my suggestion is to go on and play, and which I did. I had a little flirted with Leighton Orient. I had a couple of games for them in the youth team reserves, and then it was all about playing in the terms of non-league. Dave, you know, played non-league, and I'm sure you know all these clubs. I mean, I played at Woodford. I played at Chinkford Town, which I walk over there with my dog now. Would you believe? And it's just a wilderness, but there's one post still there at Newgate Street, which is lovely. So reminisce. So Chinkford, and perhaps play down at Leighton, which is now Leighton and Wingate, or Leighton and Finchley, which it was. And I played also at Walthamstow Avenue. I had some good games at Walthamstow Avenue, and that was also a very you know, good time in my career as a player, playing at those sort of levels and playing for all the local sides, if you like.
And are you surprised, though, Mick, with some of those sides that you mentioned, the likes of Leighton and Walthamstow Avenue and those, you know, they were some big sides in the day, and you know, and those sort of big sides now no longer sort of exist in the form that they did then.
No, Dave, it's extremely sad. I show a picture. I've got it on my phone. I show a picture where there's 100,000 at Wembley, 100,000, and it's Walthamstow Avenue playing Leighton in the FA Amateur Cup. I mean, 100,000 watching that game. You know, two local sides, and it commands 100,000 at the Amateur Cup. So yeah, I mean, we know it's sort of amalgamated, like, as we said, Walthamstow Avenue finished up, and that'd be part of Dagenham and Redbridge, really, where it went. But the ground is no more. That's got flats on it at the Avenue, and again, there's you know, some history there. Of course, we know about Leighton. That's the Hare and Hounds ground. That's just you know, now it's just overgrown, and it's still there by all accounts. But it's
I saw a picture of it the other this week. Believe it or not, there was a picture. The stands are all still there, but it's
still there.
Like the next Tarzan movie. That's what it looks like.
Exactly. And so Chinkford Town, that's still the actual perimeter is still there, and the sort of old water tank and a bit of a rusty old stand behind one goal. But yeah, it's very sad. But let's get it right, Dave. I mean, all sort of local communities tended to have their own team, and that doesn't seem to be the case now. Yes, there's some sort of a rekindled, you know, trying to get back to it. I know close to me we've got Waltham Forest now, who are commanding decent crowds. Great to see the old, is it Clapton at Spotted Dog? They've had a go back and getting crowds as well. So look, there's clubs that are bouncing back, and it's good to see the community, the local community, you know, supporting it.
Yeah, I mean, Walthamstow itself as well, going great guns as well in the, you know, the southern south as well. Sorry, southern central, should I say? And just missing out on promotion.
They did, didn't they? Yeah, they got
Didcot, wasn't it? Was it? Didcot?
That's right. Yeah, it was. I know that was disappointing for them, but I know the I say secretary Andy Perkins down there. I've known him for a long time, and he was at Leighton, strange enough, and he's always followed local football, and I'm pleased to see you know, that team doing, you know, well, and hopefully they push on in the future.
So I mean, from you playing side, then how old was it before you decided enough was enough?
Well, I wouldn't say enough was enough, Dave. As I said, it got to a stage, and you know what football's like. You get family comes into the equation, and their responsibilities. I also taught as well, so I was teaching at local schools and coaching. So that was always, you know, and then you had to sort of juggle. You know, that was the thing. I say this to a lot of young players now. You know, if you've been released from clubs, you then got to go into the work environment, and if you still got that desire, enthusiasm, that commitment, and that's the word I use massively, commitment, you've got to train a couple of nights a week, play Saturdays. It is a commitment, and you've got to sort of juggle it. So that's where my journey took me. I said I played non-league, and then after that sort of happened, I said teaching, and then I played a lot of, which was good, I played a lot of old boys football, and, you know, in terms of, which was a very high standard, Dave, but I must say that, you know, the old boys sort of network of football, the Southern Amateur League, Southern Olympic League, those sort of things. You've got a lot of individuals, players in there who, you know, I say similar to myself, who have been released, work commitments took sort of over, family commitments and those sort of things were, you know, in the mix. but they wanted to still play their game and play. And as I said, I represent in the Southern Olympic League and the Southern Amateur League, which is high. I mean, I've got to tell you, it's great. I mean, old boys football. You talk about funny stories, Dave. It's they used to, and again, the old boys network used to run so many teams. Some clubs used to run 9, 10 teams, on a Saturday. I mean, to play for the sort of 10th 11, the requirement was if you could stand up, you got a game. That was the requirement.
I'm getting that one.
but it was fantastic. And Tuesday night used to be selection committee meeting. I mean, to be honest, I think it was really just a get together to have a couple of beers and have a bit of a chin wag and a chat, But they used to have a selection committee. They took it reasonably serious. And I was there one Tuesday, and all sat round a table. And the 10th 11 captain came. He said, "My goalkeeper," he said, he won't mind me saying, his name was Mark Howe. He said, "Mark Howe," he said, I've got to drop him. He's he's struggling." He said, "But I've got this new goalkeeper." I went, "Oh, right, okay." He said, "Yeah, he's got good agility, flexibility, reads the game, plays with presence. Really, a fantastic addition to what we want." I went, "God, he sounds good then." I said, "Is he that good?" He said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "I've got him here." I said, "Oh, I'd like to meet him." Well, he goes in the car park and brings the biggest road cone he could find and put it on the table. So he was going to play a road cone in goal next week instead of this Mark Howe. I mean, it was brilliant. I mean, it was, when you're there and you see it, you think, wow, how does that work? So this road cone got more appearances than this Mark Howe, But it was great. It was great to see that old boys football.
But the camaraderie and that sort of side of it. I mean, I know somebody who's going to come on in future episodes is going to come on and have a chat with us in Lee Judges. He plays sort of vets football for Waltham Abbey, and but I mean, he seems to love that as well. I mean, what there's got to be some good games that you played in. Also, what other players did you was there any other players sort of that we would know that you played against? There's got to be some more great stories.
Well, in terms of what the old boy football,
yeah.
Well, again, it was you look back on it. I mean, it just wouldn't happen, Dave. Like I said about me going to Chelsea as a 13-year-old, going to train at Stamford Bridge, as a kid, and train behind the goal, and all those certain things do not happen now. And the one of them, again, we were there, and this club I played for, the Old Manovians in Roding Lane, and every game in the world would be called off, but the chairman of the club needed to get revenue behind the bar, so he would make sure games were on. Whatever happened, the game would be on, and we'd turn up at Roding Lane. The pitch would be like a Somme, be a quagmire, but you'd have, because there might be 6 games, but there might be back-to-back games on these pitches. There'd be 3 pitches, there'd be one game, then there'd be another game, so-called, and start at 11 o'clock in the morning to get games in. And we were there one week, with the first 11 there, and great, really, in terms of we're watching, and there's this guy, and he looked sharp up front, really, really, really sharp. He smashed one. I think he was playing with like the 5th 11. Smashes one in with his right foot, smashes another one in his volley with his left foot, diving header, scores a hat trick like we're in the first 20 minutes. And we're all standing going, we need him next week. And he was good. But the unusual thing about it, he had these sort of dark blue and white sort of hoop socks. No one else had these on. We think we were good. Anyway, it trots off. Now, remember, all the football's been called off, Dave. It's all been called off. It was Raphael Mead, who was the Arsenal centre forward. Right? He was playing for the Old Manovians 4th 11. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, imagine that. And next week he's playing, for Arsenal, and he's playing with the Old Manovians 4th 11. So imagine that happening now. It just wouldn't happen, would it?
Just imagine turned up for a Vets game at Waltham Abbey, and and out trots Gabriel Jesus. Yeah, you just imagine.
I mean, you just can't even like make that up. But that's a true story. And so he was there, and there was another guy playing as well in the same side, Ali Dick, who played for Spurs. He was a like a wispy Scottish winger, and so they were not desperate, but they were wanting to play, football, and they weren't getting the game, so they sort of rocked up this old boys football. But so those were, great stories, and as I said, that sort of side of it, it sort of kept me going. Go back to your question, it kept me going. I was playing Saturdays, playing Sundays. I was playing for a teachers' team on a Sunday. We had a really fit group of lads, you know, all PE teachers as well. And we sort of rose from, I think it was the Harold Wood League or something, and then we rose from like Division 4 up to the Premier League. And straight enough, we had 2 finals at Woodford Town, and that was good. We won those. So I was playing Saturdays and Sundays, and it was just a joy to carry on playing. And being a keeper, Dave, I'm proud to say this. I carried on playing. They always carried. My wife said, "What you doing?" I'm saying I'm going to watch, but she didn't know that I packed my bag and I was still playing. I used to come home like I was Quasimodo. I was bent over, you know, because I say it was so. Used to get ache so much afterwards. But I played. I still played. My last game I played, Dave, and I'm proud to say this, was only in a sort of a staff versus pupil game at Chigwell. We won 4-3 against the first 11, the school, and I did all right. I still throw myself around because I knew when I did all right. We won 4-3. We had a player playing for us, Joe Cole. Joe Cole played for us. He scored a hat trick because one of his children went to the school. But he came, like, "How old are you?" I said, "Well, that was my last game." I said, "I'm 65. He said, "I can't believe it." He said, "You're still throwing yourself around at 65 at that time." And I enjoyed it. And listen, I love me coaching, but Dave, I've got to say, playing was the best. It still is the best for me. And I say to all players that I coach, play as long as you can, because you hark back because you still want to do it.
So when did all you know, because everybody knows that you've got, you know, that, or if they didn't know, you run a very successful coaching school yourself.
Yeah.
When did you start looking at that sort of side of it to think, well, look, you know, maybe it's a time for me to stop diving around and actually start doing the coaching school? Or was you doing the coaching school while you were still playing?
That's a good question, Dave. I mean, what happened? As I said, it was I don't say it too. I don't gloss over this, but I'll go over it quite quickly. At 21 years of age, I had quite a bad car crash, and as a goalkeeper, having a skin graft on your elbow, having a skin graft on your hip, and also your left hand, your thumb being sort of webbed together, where I got burnt in this car. And I was out of action for literally 2 years, but I bounced back. So I've gone back to the story really, but I bounced back and played. And that time I wrote to Bob Wilson, the old Arsenal keeper, who's now and still is a personal friend and been a source of inspiration, source of knowledge, but most all of it a massive friend. And I wrote to Bob, and he invited me over. No one was doing goalkeeping coaching. I was all involved in that. And I went over to his house, lived in Great North Road at Potter's Bar. And he said, "Look, I'm going to start doing a goalkeeping school. Would you like?" Anyway, I got on that as one of his senior coaches, and I coach with him. And I go back in terms of, say, coaching and things like that, doing various little courses. But Bob was great. It was an innovation, really, of goalkeeping coaching. As I said, no one was doing it. When I was at Chelsea, honestly, Dave, they'd go, "Right, go behind the goal." And you and the other goalkeeper, fire shots at each other. That was the art of coaching. That was it. Nothing more than that, really. And that's why I've always, made sure people realise that was, again, the reasons being that it's not just about putting the goalkeeper in there and firing shots on him. It's about the technical work, it's about the tactical work, it's about the physical work. But the biggest thing about goalkeeping is the mental side of the game, and that's something I really, really very I put across to all the coaches that I coach. So what went on, Dave? I got with Bob and did the courses, and then as things moved on, I coached at Tottenham, which was brilliant. It was my club where I was coaching the academy. I had some good goalkeepers come through. Chrissy Day, by one, who finished up playing at Tottenham, Crystal Palace, England under-21, and Perry Suckling, who's still there, is someone else I coached. David Button. I mean, I could go on with the names of keepers that I've, I had the privilege, and I say that I had the privilege to coach and help and support as we go along. And what happened? I then went to America. I went to America. I was doing all coaching here and various bits and bobs, but I went to America in Alabama, to the University of Alabama, and I was the head coach there, which was in sort of it's late '89, early '90. And we were, when as a family, my wife, my 3 daughters, we've got 4 daughters now, but we had 3 at the time. It was a big adventure, massive. And she don't know I'm going to say this, but big up to my wife. She supported me. I wanted to do this, and she knew that she'd have to uproot the family. And she supported me, went out there. And that was, again, Dave, stories. But I'm in the throes of jotting all this down to write a book, of different things that went on. And the Alabama, because at the time, America didn't have a league, Dave. The players were playing college ball or university football.
Yeah.
And we'd gone there to this Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm laughing at myself now. I always remember it. Me and my pal, who's actually coached at Fulham, Lee Hagger, he was a great friend of mine, and he came out. He got his master's degree out there, and we went out to the grounds, and we had the field, the soccer field, because that's what they call it. Don't call it a pitch; it's the soccer field. So I say to the groundsman, "Can you mark out the pitch?" Well, in 1990, the pitch. Hold on a minute. What pitch, coach? What's the pitch? He said. I said, the pitch. He said, no, pitch is baseball. It's baseball. Talking in this southern sort of accent. I said, oh right. He's no, that's a soccer field. I said, all right. I said, well, can you make sure it's all marked out? And I said, like, mark it all out correctly. All the measurements and everything. I said, I want my 6-yard. I want my 2 6-yard boxes. All those sort of things. And, oh yeah, he marked me 6-yard boxes out, Dave. But I say that word again. He marked my 6-yard boxes out. They were 2 6-yard boxes, complete boxes. They were squares in front of the goal. So Dave Square, but there were 2 squares in front of the goal. And I thought, wow, I think I might have my work cut out here to address people understanding the game. But no, that was fantastic. To go there and travel, go to Chicago, St. Louis, played in some great sort of stadiums, and I felt the strange thing about this, though, you asked me about it, is I went back 6 weeks ago to Alabama and met all my old players, guys who are in their 50s now, and they said, it makes you feel. You don't set out to do that, but it does make you feel proud when you feel you've had influence on them, and these guys are coaching. I always said to them, if the game's going to grow here, especially in the South in America, in Alabama and places like that, you're going to be the next generation of coaches because you're the players. So went back, saw them, and we had a whale of a time to reminisce, and again had some wonderful laughs and memories.
And you've only just recovered, yeah?
Well, yeah, really. I mean, really, yeah, it was. It was so. That was great, Dave. But then I come back from the States and set up my own goalkeeping school. I know that was your first question, and we did that. Again, I just saw there was not a gap. That's the wrong word. There was no one doing it. It was, and I go back to what I said to you earlier, mate. It's goalkeeping is a specialised position, and it really does make me cross when people. I'll say. I can have people comment on it, and I can have people make an opinion on it, and I can have people judging it. I take that, but until you've played the position, it's very, very. I think people that have that opinion don't know what it's like to play between them sticks. On a windy, rotten old day, the ball's like a bar of soap. You've got a big old centre forward who's smashing you, and it's you're playing in a side that might not be doing particularly well, and you make a mistake. That's goalkeeping. I say my statement to everyone, Dave, about goalkeeping. I say, the best goalies are the ones who make the fewest mistakes, because they all make them. The top level goalkeepers make them. Poor David Seaman, who's become a personal friend again. He's remembered and revered for what he was, but people still bring it up, Naeem from the halfway line, Ronaldinho over his head, in the World Cup. But the guy's played over 1,000 games, at the top level, and he's remembered. There's only one keeper in our lifetime, Dave, who's remembered for a save, and that's Gordon Banks. All the others are at times revered or not revered in terms of the mistakes, but that's the nature of the beast. You become a goalkeeper. Guess what? You've got a sign on a dotted line because you have broad shoulders and thick skin.
One of my ultimate heroes is Mr. David Seaman. He's I met him a couple of times when he used to live in Waltham Abbey.
Yeah.
One of the nicest guys, I think, in present company excluded, in football that I've ever met. I think he was he was just an absolute dynamite guy, and probably one of the best goalkeepers of my lifetime. He'd be the first name on my team sheet if I was picking somebody through my lifetime for goalkeepers. He would without doubt be the number one, without a shadow of a doubt. I think he was just an all-round, genuinely lovely bloke.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's been again a privilege. I keep using that word, but it's a privilege to come in contact with these people who become not just acquaintances, but they can become friends. Like Pat Jennings. Pat Jennings attended my goalkeeping school and used to present the trophies and come over. And I mean, Pat was my hero. I mean, Pat Jennings was my hero. And under 19 caps for Northern Ireland. Football of the year. He's playing in the World Cup when he was 40 against Brazil. It was just magnificent. And I say, Big Dave, I called Dave up because I go back with the Bob Wilson connection. Bob coached him, and we sort of hit it off. And when I started running my goalkeeping school, I said to Dave, I said, any chance of just popping over? He said, I won't just pop over. He said, I'll put my gear on. And he said, I'll join in for the day. And he for about 3 or 4 years, he joined in we used to run it like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And Dave would come over on the Sunday. He'd put his Arsenal gear on. No, it'd be big time, That's what I said to him. But he'd turn up and he'd stay there. And like you said, he would, sign autographs. He would take pictures. He was just so pleasant, so nice, and so, just unassuming, for someone who's done what he's done in the game. And as I said, I'll go back to your point, Dave. He's up there with the best. There's no doubt about it, because he played with presence, Dave. He played with presence, but he played with an unbelievable amount of calmness. You never see him really rattled, did you? A big player. And as I said,
you mentioned somebody else there in Pat Jennings. I remember when I was a kid meeting him in Southend. He was opening up a shop in Southend.
Yeah.
It still sticks to me this day. Probably, I don't know, some sort of 45 years later after meeting him, was just the size of the bloke's hands.
Yeah. No,
they were like dinner plates.
Yeah, they are.
They were just absolutely incredible. I just couldn't believe it when you saw, when you go up to try to shake your hand. Maybe because my hands in them days were like,
no,
I knew, but it was the one thing that I came away, and I remember saying to my aunt when we walked away, his hands were massive, just absolutely huge. But
as you know, he played Gaelic football in Ireland, Big Pat. And again, one of my proudest moments, and it was before that, when he was 40, he was going to go on the World Cup. I was coaching at Tottenham. And the strange thing is, they used to have a ball court upstairs at Tottenham, just a concrete ball court with a bit of sort of astroturf on the floor, very, very thin. And I've got the keepers up there, like the under-13s, under-14s, on a Thursday night. And all of a sudden, there's this one door in the corner, just one door in this big hall. Knock on the door, open the door, it's Pat. He went in his deep voice, Mick, can I come in and have a bit of coaching? Asking me, and he joined in with the 14-year-olds. And about a month later, he's playing the World Cup against Brazil, and he's in this ball court, with these 14-year-olds, just getting some handling, because at that time he didn't really have a club. He'd left Arsenal, gone to Spurs, left Arsenal, come back to Spurs, but wasn't really playing. But Ireland, Northern Ireland still wanted him to play, and there he was. As I said, playing the ball court a month before, and he's playing against Brazil a month later. So no, a brilliant guy, and I said, privileged to call them friends.
So we've been coaching school and all the rest of it, with all the brilliant people that you've met. Where did the England C situation come from?
Well, that's again, I said, did the goalkeeping. It was something that was specialised. I mentioned that word many times. And Paul Fairclough, who was at Stevenage, and he knew of me. I knew of Paul, and our paths had crossed many, many times. Various things, because I then got the opportunity to go into Dagenham and Redbridge, Dave. So I went into Dagenham and Redbridge, and had Tony Roberts, who's now the Welsh national goalkeeping coach, also the goalkeeping coach at Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I went in there part-time, and I had Paul Gothard. Paul Gothard also there. He's the New Zealand goalkeeping coach. He lives in New Zealand now. Tony Roberts, as I said, is the Welsh. Went in there, and our paths crossed, Stevenage versus Dagenham and Redbridge. And that, we just had a bit of a connection. And then Paul got the role, and I'll be up front with you. I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, I'll get in touch. I said, do you need a goalkeeping coach? And he said, well, leave it with me. And I went along and did a couple of sessions, and as I say, the rest is history. And we've been together for me and Paul for over about 23 years now in England C role. And again, we've had some wonderful memories, wonderful places to go. And as I said, I've been very, very blessed. And, I thank my lucky stars, basically.
I mean, you guys must be going down as the longest serving England managers of all time, aren't you?
Well, Paul's the manager. I'm the coach.
Yeah.
And we are. Yeah. I mean, he pulled that to me the other day. Strange enough, Dave, I'm with him tomorrow. We're going to Wembley tomorrow. We're going to watch the playoff between Notts County and Chesterfield. So that's going to be good. But no, well, I do believe we are the longest serving England coaches of the FA of of all time. But yeah, we've been around a long time.
I mean, some of the game, I mean, for people that don't understand, I know I've asked this question before, but we'll ask it to you again. For people that don't understand the England C setup, I mean, what is the England C setup in general, so that people understand?
Well, in general, as I said, it's always been the guys from the National League down, and I say down, I do use that broadly. We've had picked players who have played in the Isthmian League before now, but it's usually National League, and then National League South, National North, but then you might have the Northern Prem or somewhere like that. But so you do have a number of players, and those players, it used to be open age, Dave. It used to be open age, and Paul was, and I think I made him right. He made it like an under-23 squad, so it's an under-23 side now, and it's lads who are picked. We can't pick anyone who's at a professional football club. What I mean by that, if they're on loan, say for Tottenham or Man United, we can't select them, although they might only be young, but we can't. So it's players who, are playing for those sort of teams. And I would say this, though, Dave, a number of times these players have been, they've had, good credentials, played at the at top clubs, from academies through, and even played with the first team. But for some reason, they've dropped out and they've had to start again. And I said, I think I've had that conversation with you. But these certain players have got to have a certain, they've got to have a character to bounce back again, because it's a tough gig when you've been released from a top side, and then you've got to go and play non-league and to rekindle your career. And these players who have done it, and we've had, as I say, a number of them, have gone on. I mean, the boy who's playing at Brentford now, Ethan Pinnock, the centre half, he's playing. Kiefer Moore, who's playing for Wales, he played for us. Jamal Lowe, all them three played in a game against Estonia. Quite incredible, all three of them, and they're all playing in the Premiership, all been round. I mean, it's daft, really. But no, players, we could put a side out, or not just a side, we could put at least three sides out of really high quality players who have gone on back in the Football League or the Premier League, and had a great career.
So when you play these sides, though, Mick, I mean, do the sides that you play, are they sort of under 23s as well? Are they full adult sides, open age sides that you play?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes they're open age. They're open age, but we have played most times. I don't know if I told you this one, Dave, as well. That will be most times they're like under 21s. They are, or they're B sort of teams. I mean, I go back a number of years now, but we played at Luton Town. We played Belgium's under 21s. And what Belgium used to do, Dave, they used to sort of like have they sort of had a collection of a group of about 30 players who played with their under 21s. And they call it like a development team. And they used to anyway, played at Luton. And we won 1-0 in the European sort of trophy that we used to play in. And Matthew Barnes-Homer, who was playing at Macclesfield, I think, scored for us. He's being marked by Toby Alderweireld, right? So he was playing at Belgium. But who did he score past? Courtois. Courtois was in goal. So Courtois is now playing in the Champions League finals. And Matthew Barnes-Homer, whenever I see him, he goes, well, I'll score past him. And he scored at Luton past Courtois, who was playing at Belgium. And we won 1-0, Dave. And look at those two players, the careers they've had. Yeah. And our boys, are all, they was at that stage, all non-league players. So it was we played some big hitters over the time. And these boys have, and what it does, Dave, I mean, really what it does, I use this thing loosely, but it rubber stamps their credentials. They're playing, because when we played the last game against Wales, honestly, we was inundated. I would say there was at least 70 scouts there at that game, not just in England, from Scotland and things like that. And so it does give them the platform to move on.
Mm. So, I mean, what other big stars have you, I mean, what sort of big stars have you played against, and what big stars have come out of England seed and gone, other than the three that you've mentioned, is there any other sort
Oh,
of stars that have come out and gone into our game?
oh yeah. I mean, in terms of you go back. David Stockdale was one of our keepers who's playing at Sheffield Wednesday now. He's like their van for there was a promotion place at Stock. He's had a great career, and David Stockdale was the closest one. Well, actually, two. He's the closest one of playing for the full England national side. He got called up by Capello, never played, but he was there. Another keeper who plays, Scott Loach, who finished up playing. He played for England under 21 about 14 times. He was on the bench, he played for our England C last season. So he played. He's at Derby now. Back, he's an older statesman. So in terms of the keepers there, so they did exceptionally well. But there's all the keepers have done well there. We go through, as I said, I mentioned the boy Pinnock. There was another guy, Aidan Flint, who was a centre half, had a great career, commanded lots of transfer fees. Andre Gray, Andre Gray, who played at Burnley, Brentford. He's had it again. He's had someone who's played at Watford in the Premiership. George Boyd, Stevenage lad who came through, finished at Peterborough, then went off to Burnley and played in the Premiership. Craig Smith, great career at Brighton. It's strange. I've mentioned about Kiefer Moore. He played for Wales. You've got we had another guy, Sam Ricketts, who finished out as a manager. Sam at Shrewsbury and played. I think he was playing with Hereford. I'm not sure at the time we selected him. Telford, I think he was playing for. Finished up playing with Wales like over 40 odd times. George Boyd played for Scotland. Craig Smith played for Scotland, full international, but they all played for England C. As I said, the boy James Norwood's playing. He's had a good career playing centre forward. There's an abundance of players. I said, if I've got my list out, you'd be surprised who have gone on. Junior Gogo, he was a name who played with Nottingham Forest. He had a good career. Midfield players, Lee Johnson, who finished up being manager at Sunderland, but he had a decent career as a player. And it's just, Dave, it's mind-blowing, really, when you see it. I do believe we've had over 200 players who have played the England C setup. And it's not like what you set out to do, but what I said earlier, it gives them a platform and they go back to the league. And if they play in the Football League and then go and play in the Premier League, we do see England C as a massive, massive part of their development and career.
I mean, let's have couple of questions before we let you go. I mean, is there anybody sort of in the setup, close to your setup now that you look at and think this could be our next big star? And how many games do England C normally play in a season?
Well, I'll go with the first one with you, Dave. Sorry, the second one. That has been a little bit of a dilemma. Where before we used to get between, I would say, 4 and 6 games a season. When we had 6 was the height of our season. We travelled the world. We did travel the world as such. We went out to Bermuda, Barbados, Grenada, Jordan, Russia. It sounds great, but we did, and Cyprus. But what we always did is that we were an England side that would be really good sort of ambassadors for the FA. We believed, we used to go. It's still one of my highlights of my career when we went out to Jordan. Luke Berry scored, actually. Luke Berry, who's now playing at Luton, who are in the playoffs for the Premiership. Luke scores a lot of goals. He scored the only goal that day. We played in the King Abdullah Stadium, and Luke Berry scored. But what happened, because we was in Jordan, we finished up with all the players. We had about 100 Syrian refugees of these young children who were like living in tents, and we did a coaching come fun afternoon with them. And we had the British Embassy was there, UNICEF was there, and these England players, these boys, these lads who were with us, what a show they put on, and what an honour was for them to do that. And UNICEF and saw that. And it didn't really get the kudos that it should have got, because that was a really big event. And it was done we didn't know it was done ad hoc, and it's got sorted. But so that's the other thing. I should have said that earlier. That's the other thing this England C team does. It does get out to places and help young people in the communities as well as the game, you know. So that side of it is, I think, it's a massive part. So at the moment, we're only having we had a game this season, which was only one game this season, but we hope, and if people, the powers that be, see it, you know, we should, you know, be getting a couple more, I think. And again, it's the platform for these players, like I mentioned earlier, to show their worth, if you like. In players that are coming through, there's a young boy, Joe Shabara, who plays at Solihull. He's decent. He's got a little bit about him. But again, I've got to be honest, Dave. I've seen games, but I haven't seen enough of these players to really make a huge judgment of saying who's going to be the next star. But what I will say, Dave, there is a next star in non-league football. I guarantee you, because they pop up all the time. And as I say, if some of these non-league players are listening to this today, or when they get a chance to listen to this, all I would say to all of them: keep going, keep pushing, keep striving, but most of all, keep believing you can get back in the game, because this non-league, whatever level you're playing at, will give you the platform to go again.
And of course, now we're doing commentaries.
Yeah, I mean, that's been another string to my bow, really. It's been a real, I've loved that. As I said, it's, you know, it's great to speak to you about this day, because you know, you brought things up, and perhaps I don't always realise, or don't even appreciate, which I know I do appreciate, but you know, where this career has gone of mine. And doing the commentaries for Radio London and BBC London, BBC Manchester, BBC Cumbria. I mean, and the big one I do a lot of summarising for is BBC Lancashire. So they've for a better word, it sounds a bit blasé of me, really. It shouldn't be, but I've sort of just fell into it, really. It was strange. I was coaching at Dagenham. That's what happened. And BBC Essex, a guy called Stuart Smith, I was coaching at Dagenham, going out there, doing the warm-ups, doing everything. And he came over, he said, "Any chance you could join me?" I said, "Well, have a word with the manager." The manager at the time was Gary Hill, who was manager at Dagenham. And he said, "Yeah, you can go up there." But what was good about it, Dave, I used to be in the changing room, and then I'd come out and sit alongside him. And you know, I didn't give sort of secrets away, but I could give a lot more in depth of what was being said in the changing room, you know, about players, how we're going to set up, what we're going to do. And it really, I think it really gave a good idea of what goes on. Then I used to go in there at half time and again, just, you know, be privy or put words in or see what was going on, how we were going to change things, what we were going to do differently, or who we were going to nullify, or how we're going to do our. And I come back on commentary and do it again. And I think people heard that. And then word of mouth, really, said, "Would you be available?" And I've moved on from that to, you know, doing Premiership games, which I like to do a lot more of, actually, but also, you know, Championship, Division 1, Division 2, and National League games. So it's been another sort of something I can still do, not playing, but something I can still do and have an opinion on, and hopefully tell the world that you know, our football's being played in. And I feel I'm honest. You know, that's the big thing about it. I feel I'm honest about what should be said, how it should be said, and you know, you can't dress it up. You've got to call it as you see it.
And I'll be honest, it's something that I've sort of said, stuff that I've done with these sort of shows, presenting shows and comparing awards nights and all this sort of stuff that you've been doing. But it's another sort of string to my bow that I fell into this year as well with the commentaries, you know, doing it stuff for Enfield Town. And I'd say I never thought I'd be able to do. And, you know, but sitting up there doing them sort of like every home game, and I must admit, I absolutely love every single second of it. You know, it's an enjoyment, you know, maybe a little bit of an alternative commentary, shall we say, but it's commentary that you get people now sort of, you know, phoning you and going, "Are you going to be doing the game at the weekend? Are you going to be doing the game at the weekend?" And, you know, and if, again, as I said to you off air before, if I can find, you know, if you can get a job where you're Monday to Friday, it's something that you could possibly do. Do you know what I mean? On a more regular basis, you know, home and away. Do you know what I mean? But it's I just think it's fantastic being able to get behind a mic and be able to describe what you're seeing in front of you.
Well, I think you just said it, Dave. You know, it's a passion. It's something you know, really enjoy. I do. I enjoy it. But you said that what was so really good about it, every game's different. All right, we know there's certain things that pop up that are similar, but every game's different. You know, the scenarios are different, the clientele are different, or the players, the way they set up is different, the way they approach the game is different, the conditions are different. You know, and situations arise which the biggest thing is you have to think on your feet as a commentator or a summariser of trying to put it out there, you know, in terms of describing it in a way that people can, you know, relate to. You know, it's no good saying things that they can't relate to, things that you can understand. And the biggest thing I try to do, you know, for me is making it not simple, that's the wrong word, but making it so it's explained in a way that everyone can grasp it. That's my take on it. And when I'm sort of doing the summarising, people just, you know, the commentators throw that at me, and I will always look at, you know, the big one is, you know, what do you think the manager might do, you know, in this situation? Or you know, and it's an opinion, but you know, it's an opinion that I feel I try to be honest and I try to be fair. And the biggest thing is, Dave, I know sometimes if you're doing it for, say, you're doing it for Enfield, I think you've also got to call it right for the opposition who you're playing against, because you know, if they're doing a good job or they're doing something well, you've got to be upfront with them. You know, yes, you're not so biased, that's not the word, but you are doing your home team, and that's what a lot of sides do. But you know, I've done quite a lot for Dagenham and Redbridge this year, and we got some really good feedback off the especially when what happened was when COVID hit. I know we still talk about that now and again, people do, but there was no crowds in at all, and we were the only ones sitting in the stand, and you know, people couldn't come to see their team from away from home, and they used to listen or watch, and we got some very, very honest, positive feedback, and that pleased me more than anything, really.
Well, I think I think the games that we've done, I think we probably give a man of the match more to the opposition than what we have to the home team, you know, because there's been some fantastic sides come down. And I think you've just got to be, as I said it there, you've just got to say what you see rather than be biased with what you see. Do you know what I mean? And he's some great games down there.
And then I said, you know, Dave, the biggest thing about we you know, we can look at players. I don't believe any player goes out there to make a mistake. You don't go out and make a mistake, but you will make mistakes. But it's the way, if you describe it on commentary or describe it on summarising, you know, I always say if the players are not focused, if they're not concentrating, I know it sounds that they're two basic things, but they are, and they're switched off. I say it's most important. They've got to do their job, live the game, live the second, live the moment. Whether you're a keeper, whether you're a fullback, understand the game. And as I said, there's I said it at the top of this interview with you, there's 4 things in football: technical, tactical, physical, and mental. That mental side of the game for the player is so vital that you get the other 3 ingredients right: the technical side, the tactical side, and the physical side. If you've got that mental strength, then your game can improve. But no, it's been great. I mean, hopefully, I mean, if you're ever short on an Enfield game and you wanted me to jump in with you, I'd only be too pleased if I'm available. That'd be quite nice to come over and sit. I know you have the other guys most probably, but I wouldn't want to muscle in. But I'd always there.
No, that would be phenomenal if you did.
I'd always be able to support you in what you do on that side. You know.
No, Matty, I really appreciate that, Mick. And Mick, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. It really has. And I always, in fact, one of the nicest people I've ever met in football, and I always love talking to you. I could sit here and talk to you for the rest of the day because I certainly, you know, you're just somebody that I've got a lot of admiration for, and I really, really appreciate your time. So a massive thank you. And hopefully everybody at home has enjoyed our chat with Mick today. And of course, in the coming weeks, we've got a few surprises for you. We've got the likes of, hopefully, shall we say, on paper at the moment anyway, Lee Judges is going to come and join us. And we've even got a certain Matt Letizier that might be joining us in a couple of weeks' time. So, but until then, a massive thank you for watching. Please keep watching the Southern League YouTube channel. Keep watching, sharing and subscribing. But from me and from Mick, thank you for watching and good night.